If you want to know the history of Cheesman Park to find out why it's haunted, we have to look beneath the surface, about 6 feet beneath. In the mid-19th century, people visited this place not to smell the flowers in the botanical garden, but to place flowers on their loved ones' headstones. In 1858, this 160-acre site was opened as the Mount Prospect Cemetery. In 1865, 40 acres of the site were devoted to the burial of Catholics, and that piece became Mount Calvary. But it was in 1872 when Congress decreed that Mount Prospect was federal land, which was sold to the city of Denver with the condition that the site always serve as a cemetery and nothing else. With that, in 1873, the cemetery would come to be known as the Denver City Cemetery. In the 1880s, the city of Denver was growing so large, and with this gigantic cemetery in the middle of it, that the city pleaded with Congress to change the status of the cemetery from burial land to parkland. It was on January 25, 1890, that Congress agreed to this, and Denver City Cemetery became known as Congress Park. Families were given 90 days to remove the bodies of their loved ones to other locations. After the 90 days had passed, all the city of Denver needed to do was figure out a way to move the 5,000 plus unclaimed graves to another site. In 1893, they enlisted the help of Undertaker E.P. McGovern to take on the task at $1.90 per body. But before he could complete the job, McGovern was dismissed for mishandling of the project. Apparently, there were allegations of him dismembering corpses so they would fit in child-sized coffins. Although numerous graves had not yet been reached and others sat exposed, the new contract for moving the bodies was never awarded. Because of this, there are still an estimated 2,000 corpses, calling the park their final resting place. In the early 1900s, Denver Mayor Robert W. Speer was an advocate of the City Beautiful movement and encouraged benefactors to donate money for the beautification of Congress Park. He had little success with this until the widow and children of Walter Scott Cheesman donated $100,000 for a pavilion to be built. Work was completed in 1907, and the park would come to be known as Cheesman Park. But the 40-acre plot of Mount Calvary Cemetery was still on site and owned by the Archdiocese. It was in 1950 that the city of Denver was finally able to persuade them to give the deed for Mount Calvary back to the city. The city's botanical garden that was originally planned to be built in the city park was relocated to the Mount Calvary site. Thus, the Denver Botanic Garden was dedicated in 1966. In 2008, construction for a parking structure for the Botanic Garden began. During the initial phase of the operation, human bones and parts of coffins were unearthed. The bodies were removed, buried in a different cemetery, and construction was allowed to continue. Movies like Poltergeist and The Changeling have been inspired by this great park in the heart of the Mile High City. We will weigh all the evidence to determine if the hauntings of Cheesman Park are real or if this is all just a movie.